me scared, you want me weak, you want me brain dead and asleep. You want us trapped while you all laugh behind the scenes. You want us sick, you think we're dumb. You want us blind, then you want us drug. You want us poor while you get more of everything. But you don't get to tell me what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell me what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so I don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. You want us tricked, you want us numb. You want us scared and you want us stung. You want us shot and you want us bought in every way. You want our minds, you want our time. You want us framed up in your crime. I hope you know that it's time to go and we're taking names. 'Cause you don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. No, you don't get to tell us what is true. 'Cause you're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You don't get to tell us what to think and what to do. You're liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. And so we don't believe a single word you say. You're all liars, fakes and cons. Want you out and we want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we're just liars, cheats and crooks. Change the rules and you burn the books. So don't believe a single word you say. Want you out, want you gone. So don't believe this time you'll get away. We see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies. 'Cause we see la 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 all your lies. La 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 all your lies.
Everything we do is under fire. Elon Musk sits on Twitter every day, or X today, saying like, we are the media, you are the media. My message to Elon Musk is bullshit. You're not the media.
You tell him.
You having a blue check mark, a Twitter handle, and 300 words of cleverness doesn't make you a reporter. You don't do that by popping off on Twitter. You don't do that by having an opinion. You do it by doing the hard work.
All right, I'm not going to play the entire. Oh yeah, there you go. You got the buffoons. By the way, can we look at this panel of who's of losers? I think that's Al Sharpton. Don't know who that guy is in the middle there. And you got Mika Brzezinski and Joe Scarborough. clapping it on. They still think they're the media. Oh, it doesn't mean having an opinion. It doesn't mean getting the latest breaking news faster and more accurately than anywhere on earth. And the folks at MSNBC are going to lecture Twitter about fake news. MSNBC, who has propagated more hoaxes than anybody out there. Serenity now. Where's my cell case with the Serenity prayer? I can't remember it. I won't remember it right now. People, we're going to have a fun one today because Shannon Joy is coming on. I see her in the backdrop. We have been not going back and forth like there's anything with any sort of animosity. Twitter is the world where even the most innocuous things can be read with animosity. And I think that's what it's designed for because that's how it generates engagement. But it's going to be fun. This is going to be a lot of fun. But before we even get Joy in here, before we get Shannon in here, Shannon Joy. Nomen S. Omen. It's a good last name. What I want to do, obviously, is, as you know, we're going to thank our two sponsors of today's show, who are Rumble partners. And not to cross-promote, but Chris Pavlovsky is going to be on the quartering at 1 o'clock, so you can catch up on that later if you didn't know. Because what is his name? Dr. Oh, geez, I didn't mean to. Oh, for goodness sake, what's his name? Dr. Not Nefario, for goodness sakes. Dr. Disrespect has joined Rumble. He's a gamer. Dr. Nefario is the bad guy from Despicable Me, I think. Russell Brand's voice. Anyhow, either way, 1775 Rumble partner people. Do you know that 95% of coffee beans are bland and overprocessed as mainstream media? Enter Peaberry Coffee, the 5% that refuses to bow to mediocrity. These rare beans are denser, richer, and packed with bold flavor, much like me, Viva. 1775 Peaberry Coffee isn't just a drink, it's a statement grown at high altitudes, handpicked with care, like election ballots should be, roasted to perfection. It's rare, bold, and uncompromising. Whether it's the Peaberry dark roast or even the mushroom blend, it's all about quality, freedom, and pushing back against the system because life is too short to drink coffee made by people who hate you and coffee that is truly disgusting. 1775 coffee is amazing. I drink it every morning. I actually have it in the back in the kitchen. Go to 1775coffee.com, grab some Peaberry, and taste what coffee is meant to be. Promo code VIVA gets you 15% off. Don't settle for mediocrity. Brew Rebellion, as if you didn't get the name. 1775 came before 1776. Delicious coffee. And the other partner of today's show, Be Naked, people. It is a supplement that will get you what you need from the raw organs of the bison without having to eat the raw organs of the bison. They say that evolution has gone soft. Men have traded their strength for comfort. But if you're not about to let your instincts go dull, it's time to fuel up with something raw, real, and primal. Naked organs. We're talking pure bison liver, kidney, heart, and testicles. But you don't have to eat the testicles the way Viva did once upon a time. You eat them in a capsule format. Some of the most nutrient-dense food on the planet. Bison liver alone packs up to 3 times more vitamin A than muscle meat, along with the levels of vitamin B12, iron, and folate, all essential for energy, immune health, keeping you sharp. The best part, you get these powerhouse nutrients in a form that's easy to take, a pill in a supplement format. Head over to benaked.com. Promo code VIVA gets you 15% off. Silence the noise, reclaim your power, and get back to being unstoppable. benaked.com. Promo code VIVA for 15% off. All right. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Shannon, didn't mean to bring you in there too quickly. Are you ready in the backdrop, Shannon? Thumbs up. Ooh, I'm bringing her in anyhow. Okay. Oh, wait, is that a thumbs up or a wait? Not yet. Okay. We're going to wait 1 second, people. I have pulled up not a tweet history, but I pulled up some tweets. If you don't know who Shannon Joy is, she's got a channel on Rumble. I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts and a few interviews, and a podcast that she linked in Twitter earlier today with, I don't know who, hold on, I have it up in the backdrop here. Fire and Fury, the podcast. And it is Epstein and Donald Trump episode. In this episode, Michael, who's Michael? You got to get the last name here. This is not her podcast. It's someone else. I listened to the podcast. I was none too impressed about this anecdotal trying to tie Donald Trump to Jeffrey Epstein in a meaningful way above and beyond what the media has already done. We're going to talk about that and other things. And I see her dancing now. Okay, you ready? 3, 2, 1. Shannon, how goes the battle?
Viva, how you doing today? It's Monday.
Very good. Now, listen, if we do this, if I back it up, we waste real estate when I back it up, but now we can see your beautiful studio.
Oh, thank you so much.
But I'm zooming back in. Who is that in the backdrop on? Is that a UFC fighter poster?
That is Ted Cruz. That is Sabo. He is an LA street artist back in 2016 primary when Ted Cruz was the hot thing. He was going up against Donald Trump, and it was very contentious in that primary. And Sabo, he was the one who did Abortion Barbie. I don't know if you remember Abortion Barbie.
I do not remember Abortion Barbie, but I'm Googling it right now.
So Sabo is controversial to say the least, but he's from the left coast, LA, and he really liked Ted Cruz. He thought that Ted Cruz is a badass, so he superimposed Ted Cruz's head on, like, you know, a gangster body and added a cigarette, and he sent me one. It's signed. And so I like political art, so I figured I'd slap it up there. I'll change it around a little bit. I want to add some Sasha Latapova. I don't know if you know Sasha, but she's amazing, and she is part of that medical freedom movement, brilliant artist. And so I'd love to use her too. But yeah, just a fun little, you know.
Shannon,
Yeah.
we will not spend a great deal of time on this, but I dive deep, and I was trying to get your history, which is not as there's too much to select from. So I was listening to podcasts and looking online. But for those who don't know who you are, let's do the 30,000 foot overview. Then we'll get to the origin story. Then we're going to get to fighting about Twitter.
Oh, I love it. I'm so, by the way, you're pulling me out of my vacation, Viva. I'm supposed to be on vacation this week. Normally I'm yeah.
Yeah, because it's Thanksgiving week in America. Like I didn't even realize this. And my wife is like, our kids are all off school this entire week. And I'm like, why?
Yeah.
And it's American Thanksgiving week.
So I have 20 people coming in, by the way, for Thanksgiving dinner, which is why I took the whole week off. And I tell you, 15 of them are diehard Trump fans. They love them some Trump. So I'm used to all of the contentious and, you know, discussion about, you know, politics and political candidates. And so I think I'm looking forward to our discussion. I think you're great. I've watched your stuff, you know, for many, many years during COVID lockdowns and in the, you know, those dark, dark days. You were one of those bright voices. So I think we probably agree on a lot of things, and we might agree on a few. No big deal.
No, it's good. Well, it'll be fun. I know where we at least disagree, but
Yeah.
so I noticed you have what I believe now, if I'm going to get accurate, is a Northern New York or borderline Michigan accent.
Rochester, right between Syracuse and Buffalo. So Finger Lakes region. It's beautiful, or Western New York, you could call it. But yeah, I've been here since I was 4 years old. So I've lived in New York almost my entire life. And I blame my parents. All of my roots are here now. I can never leave. You're lucky. You're in Florida, right?
Yeah, well, I'm down from. I was born in Montreal and raised, and now we migrated like the geese, except we're not going back. if we can help it.
Right. We're very close to Canada. I mean, we're 45 minutes an hour.
Yeah, no, I got a nephew who's at school in Rochester, and my wife. You know, my mother-in-law used to cross over to Albany, but that's in. Wait, hold on. Albany's in Vermont, or that's in New York.
Yeah, Albany is like upstate. You know how New York is shaped. Albany is upstate, like up the tip, right?
Wait, no, let's say it's right across the border. So when they go grocery shopping, because it's actually cheaper, or it was, to go to grocery shopping in Albany and then come back to the Eastern Townships.
There you go. Something is cheaper in New York for one region.
Oh yeah,
that's amazing.
I'm not sure that it's true anymore given the exchange rate. But so you're born and raised in America. Obviously, your parent. How many siblings do you have?
So, 2 siblings, older sister, younger brother. My whole family, for the most part, lives in this region. My sister just moved to Boca. So she just joined you down in Florida. So she and her whole family are back up for Thanksgiving. And so it's good to have them all back together. But yeah, they got smart. Hightailed it up to Florida.
We're in Boca. I mean, it's a different demographic. It's not quite the Miami, but it's beautiful. And we're like sort of close to the Everglades.
We're gonna be friends, Viva. I'm gonna come down there. I'm gonna find you.
Oh yeah, I look. Even when I disagree with on you, I think it's not end of the world stuff whatsoever. Yeah. Okay, so but now, I will not be the indiscreet thing. How did you get into what you got into? Because you've been on the air for like close to a decade, or maybe even more, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, a little over a decade. So I have 3 kids, right? Grew up in Rochester, New York, met my husband in college at Geneseo, New York. So, you know, just about a couple hours away, got married, 3 kids. I was in marketing and advertising and media back of the house. So radio, television, billboards. I was in advertising, sponsorship, but was always very interested in politics. So I grew up on Rush Limbaugh. My parents were very active politically. We were very pro-life. So we volunteered for pro-life initiatives. And my parents started crisis pregnancy centers in our region. We would travel down to Washington, D.C. to do the March for Life. And so I grew up in a very conservative family. I joke that I learned politics from Rush Limbaugh, the Constitution from Mark Levin, and manners from Dr. Laura Schlesinger, right? So I grew up in talk radio, always loved it. And after I would say actually closer to 13 years back of the house, I don't know. I was worried about my kids. I had 3 children. It was right after the second reelection of Barack Obama. And I'm like, what the hell is happening in this country? Nothing makes any sense. We're the country's falling apart. The narrative for conservatism is falling apart. We keep losing and losing and losing. And so I just felt like I wanted to do more. So I started volunteering for political campaigns here in New York. I got involved with the Tea Party movement a little bit, or some of the Tea Party organizers. Long story short, somehow I ended up with my own show, and we broadcasted out of a double wide trailer in a cornfield in Avon, New York, like old school AM talk radio. I started my show because I had marketing and advertising experience. I was able to underwrite my own show, and I have been able to do that ever since. So I'm an independent platform. I've grown it from that tiny little radio station. We moved to a 50,000 watt blowtorch heritage station in New York State, Clear Channel. And then post-COVID, because the bottom just fell out of the local market, the local advertising market. And so many of my great advertisers, in fact, I just lost one of my favorite long-term advertisers, Auction Direct USA, great used car dealership that was, a staple here in Rochester. As the automobile industry, the bottom fell out, they couldn't make things work. And there just wasn't, local advertising. So about 2 years ago, I took it from behind the mic, because I was just behind the mic it was only audio for years, and stumbled and bumbled my way into Rumble and had to figure out how to do video. And so I transitioned the whole show over to video. And now I've been independently platforming from Rumble. We're on, Twitter, BitChute, Clout Hub, Daily Clout. We just got picked up by Patriot TV, which is super exciting. And then just finished this new studio. So it's just little by little. I'm independent, a one-woman show, really, for the most part. I have a lot of contractors that I work with on, little things like promotions, but it's just me yapping away in front of the mic every day for about an hour and a half, kicking up all kinds of hornets' nests, which is what I do. Viva.
Sounds familiar, except for the woman part. For me. But now, for my own curiosity, not like not to pry. When you're on a 50,000 watt radio station, what are I've always wondered, like CJAD out of Montreal, like I don't know how many people they actually reach. Do you have any idea how many? I don't know if it has to be live viewers because you don't have replay on the radio. Like, what was the reach from a 50,000 watt radio station?
It's hard to say. We know what we do in market, well over 100,000 a week for a 50,000 watt station in market. So that'd be Rochester Metro. But a Clear Channel signal reaches all the way up into Canada. I get emails from people who listened in Canada, down into Pennsylvania, down throughout the East Coast in the evenings. The signal is just, it was super, super strong. And on a Clear Channel station, it doesn't share a dial. So 1180 AM, which was the 50,000 watt station I was on, doesn't share that number anywhere else in the country. So if you have a clear enough signal and a clear night and a strong enough, whatever, I don't know, you can hear Wham 1180 down in Virginia. It's crazy.
Sharing a signal means what now? That means that someone else would have 1180, but in a different area, and they would.
Well, I'm sorry, not sharing a signal, sharing the number on the dial. So 1180 AM. There, if you go to a different market or across the country, there might be an 1180 on the dial, or there wouldn't be. If it's a Clear Channel, it means there are no other 1180s on the dial. It's just that one, those call letters, WHAM. There might be other stations like 970 AM, and there are 100 different 970 AMs, and they all have, small signals, and they all have different names and different call letters. I'm not a broadcast expert. I'm probably talking out of my ass right now about this, but that's kind of my understanding.
Okay, no, that's cool. By the way, you got to see this in our locals community. We've got a meme that is that's made. This is Robert Barnes's face, but I believe that would be the body of. That, I think it was. I want to say Trevor Barker, but not.
There we go.
What's his name? The drummer from Blink. That's really funny. Okay, get that out of here.
That is really funny. I love it.
Okay, so you've got, then you get into political commentating,
Yes.
and I won't say what my conclusion is of you. I think we're gonna get into a few things, but I'm gonna start it off with the open-ended question, because I've followed you for long enough that where my correlation to you was what I would call the DeSantis camp. The DeSantis supporters I found to be, at least the online ones, they would complain for the sake of complaining, regardless and under every circumstance. But now what I've noticed is you would describe yourself as being very much pro DeSantis, right? I don't think I don't recall seeing much criticism of DeSantis, but I saw lots of pro DeSantis.
I criticized DeSantis pretty heavily in 2020 and in the dark days of lockdown, especially during the rollout of Operation Warp Speed, COVID vaccine. So he was probably, from my perspective, the best executive in the world in terms of resisting lockdown orders and resisting the worst of the worst. But he still implemented a lot of things that we saw as being absolutely abhorrent and nonsensical and, it doesn't work. But we all know, we can all acknowledge that Florida bucked everything. I mean, they were not a lockdown state. If they locked down, it was just kind of a little bit. And dealing with what we dealt with up in New York State and dealing with the nationwide lockdown orders that really influenced every state across the country and gave them kind of umbrella cover. I absolutely would go back to Florida every single time and say, this is an example in the world of at least one executive that is not just bowing or bending the knee to Anthony Fauci. Now, that doesn't mean there aren't plenty of criticisms. I could talk about, criticisms of DeSantis, I'm sure, for quite some time. But the media culture that we live in today really focuses on national politics, presidential politics. And yes, during the primary, I'm an independent, so I am a registered blank no party here in New York State. I'm not a Republican. So, even before the primary, I had said to my audience, listen, any president, any executive that was involved in the forced lockdown of this country and the rollout of Operation Warp Speed, which was a disaster, an absolute disaster, in my opinion, is not fit for office. Just not fit for office. So I didn't think that Trump should even run for a second term based on the experience that we had the last 12 months of his administration, based on the elevation of Anthony Fauci, the executive order declaring a national emergency and locking down, and then passing that baton to Joe Biden. Remember, Donald Trump could have ended the emergency declaration prior to leaving office. He didn't. And then that gave Joe Biden the executive authority that he needed to push the pedal to the metal and make our lives miserable for 4 years. The, firing of the healthcare workers and the rollout of the toxic, deadly poison jab, which we now have mountains of data on, right? I mean, we have multiple medical doctors that are calling for the pulling of the mRNA vaccines, because it is so obvious to everyone that it is so bad. Yet we can't have that conversation right now in polite circles and media, because the guy that we just elected is still saying, and I have it right here, this was a statement from Donald Trump with one of his appointments, November 22, 2024. Donald Trump's historic Operation Warp Speed saved hundreds of millions of lives. I mean, when I'm getting gaslit, Viva,
you have to back it up to you have to do, because this is one technical or strategic problem, is too much, then you can't deal with anything. Going back to one thing,
do that.
The reflexive blaming, when I say people will blame no matter what, Trump made statements about lockdowns at roughly about the same time as even the lockdown states were closing beaches like they did in Florida, closing bars like in Florida, but it didn't last all that long. to blame Trump nationally for state lockdowns, on the one hand, I think I would share some of that blame, much like I do in Canada, where the lockdowns and the curfews were provincial imposed if they were, and it wasn't federal, but it certainly got the federal green light when Trudeau says we're going to allocate $1 billion for a COVID app type thing. But I do think that the blame of Trump for state lockdowns, I mean, I think it's on the one hand unfair and exaggerated, and where it's one of those things where we're going to complain regardless. Had he done something different, it would have been a complaint that he didn't do enough to prevent states from exercising their state power. But at the end of the day, I mean, how much blame is Trump deserving of when it's a state issue, and some states didn't do it and other states did?
I think that you are 100% correct. This is a layered and nuanced topic, right? Who does deserve blame for the hundreds of thousands of dead and broken bodies in this country as a result of the lockdowns, the forced vaccines, the coerced vaccines, and then also the kill protocols? And those kill protocols, billions of dollars, legislation signed by Donald Trump, right, that rewarded financially hospitals for deploying the kill protocol, which we know is stay home until you can't breathe, then go to the hospital, get a COVID test, then remdesivir, or isolation, dehydration, remdesivir, ventilator, death. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. The federal government using monies that were allocated and deployed, billions of dollars, in the, what was it PrEP Act? It was PrEP that happened right after the COVID lockdowns and the declaration of the emergency. That money, the government incentivized hospitals to murder patients. And I would encourage everyone to go and watch Vax 3, Polly Tommy, Mary Holland, Children's Health Defense. If you want to see story after story after story after story after story of the horrific, torturous death that so many people suffered, not only in hospitals, but in nursing homes. One of the first things that the Trump administration did after lockdowns was to issue the lockdown and the shutdown of nursing homes, barring loved ones and family members who are advocates for elderly, the most vulnerable among us. They were banned from nursing homes across the country, and that was enforced with an iron fist. And I, on my show, reported, one of the reasons I can't let this go, Viva, is that on my show, I reported these horrifying stories of vaccine injury and death, hospital kill protocols, elderly patients locked in nursing homes, desperate for their loved ones, dying alone in an isolation. So when you say, should all the blame go to Trump? Of course not. What happened to this country was a disaster. From my perspective, to be sitting here now 4 years later, pretending like it didn't happen is the ultimate gaslighting. It's almost worse than it happening the first time. But we haven't been allowed to have that conversation. We haven't been allowed to say reasonably, what was Trump's role? What was Fauci's role? What was Congress's role? Remember, Congress went home. Our senator, Tom Massey was the only congressman that came back to Capitol Hill and advocated against the passage of the PrEP Act, which deployed those kill protocols and the monies for those kill protocols. By the way, about $150,000 per dead patient that was paid out to those hospitals by the federal government as a result of that legislation that Donald Trump signed. So where is Congress? Where are our congressional leaders? Where's their reckoning? The governors, what did the governors do? What did the health officials at the local level do? All of these things. There are so many people who have suffered from this, and we can't talk about it because we're focusing on these political candidates. And I think wrongfully protecting them because we fear the other political candidate more. And we're kind of wrapped in this D versus R wrestling match, and we're wrestling off a cliff. It's like Wile E. Coyote and the Roadrunner. I don't know if you ever watched, Looney Tunes growing up, but it's like these two parties, and we're so focused on the fight that we're not seeing the larger picture of the deep state. And I would say, from my analysis over the past 10 years, if you're going to talk about the deep state, you have to talk about Republicans just as much as you talk about Democrats. And especially now, Viva, as we're looking, and I know I'm throwing a lot. You just tell me to shut up whenever you want.
No, I'm trying to take mental notes of what we're going to come back to, but please keep going.
Well, what is the number one reason? And I say this because I mentioned that I'm spending Thanksgiving with my family, whom I love dearly. Okay, they are amazing. And when I say 15 of them are diehard Trump fans, what I can tell your audience is that I love them and I understand their rationale for getting behind Trump, especially when we see how bad the Democrats are and how bad Biden was and Kamala. And you look at that threat and you think, well, there's no other choice. There's no other choice for me. And so you have to go with it. So I understand the rationale. I understand the support. But when you look at, when I talk to them and we talk about lockdowns, we talk about the legislation and they say, well, yeah, it was a terrible idea. The number one rationale that I get in defense of Trump is that he was surrounded by bad advisors. He was surrounded by the deep state. He had people giving him bad advice, right? And so right now, prior to Christmas, we are looking at Trump assembling a team around him. And when I tell you that it is bad, Viva, it is bad compounded with bad and more bad. We have Scott Bessent, who is a George Soros protege. He has been working with Soros for 20 years. Howard Lutnick, Cantor Fitzgerald, and we have in Treasury and Commerce. RFK Jr., a decent pick for HHS. But then you have Mehmet Oz and Marty Makary and Dr. What was this woman? The Fox News babe, Jeanette Neshua. Okay.
Well, hold on, before we even get here, because this is where I say, like, I'll bring this up because I love there's criticism regardless, and no matter what you do. Viva refuses to do the research because he is a coward and knows it will cost him. It's an amazing thing. Like, as you interview someone who is giving a different point of view, they accuse you of not doing. My issue is, as you're talking about this and you're saying, look, I blame Trump because for the last 10 months of his presidency, when the world was plunged into an abyss of, I know what I was saying at the time, but when the world was plunged into a state of absolute hysteria, Trump, surrounded by the deep state and to his detriment, had bad players in there for the last 10 months of his presidency and did as much as he could. Like Operation Warp Speed, I believe there's some blame, but also the blame is not exaggerated, but overemphasized in that Operation Warp Speed, as it was originally iterated, was not supposed to be a one-size-fits-all mandatory call it a vaccine, a jab, that was supposed to substitute for all therapeutics. Operation Warp Speed in its original iteration, had it been implemented and carried out properly, set aside cutting of corners for an emergency, was only supposed to be for the most vulnerable, optional jab, while exploring other therapeutics, and it got hijacked, which is where I think Trump has his out, and then exploited by the next administration. When you fault Trump,
why doesn't he say that? Then why doesn't he say
that? Why doesn't he say that as a separate issue?
It's a big issue.
Well, but he might not have the political tools with which to say it just yet. Whether or not he knows of the chicanery that Pfizer pulled in its trials, he might not have the ammunition or the evidence or the opportunity yet to say it. Why hasn't he? It's been my biggest critique for a very long time, and he has a road plan to do it. But when you fault Trump for not having rescinded the emergency declaration, when you know it would have done absolutely nothing, because Biden comes in and re-implements it and makes the jab that was supposed to be optional for the most vulnerable mandatory. I think it would
be very difficult for Biden to get away with at that moment in time to get away with another emergency declaration.
But I say that's like playing what would have been but wasn't. Had he rescinded the emergency declaration, it would have been hard for Trump for Biden to implement it. No,
I get it. I mean, listen, Trump is either the smartest guy in the room playing 12-dimensional chess, or he knows exactly what he's doing. Like, I don't buy this. I'm not that smart, Viva. Okay, I'm really not that smart. Okay, I'm a girl on a radio station looking at all the same data, all the same marketing, all the same things that Trump saw, actually a lot less, right? And I, along with a small minority of Americans who stood up and spoke out from day one, and we were right, by the way, we were right about everything we said about the masks, social distancing, censorship, the vaccines, the origin of the COVID-19.
But a lot of this,
Why couldn't I figure that out and not Trump? Why,
well, but hold on, but a lot of this, because right now you are blending for the purposes of the critique a lot of things that happened over a much broader timeline. So what we knew of Operation Warp Speed, and everybody's saying that you can't rush a jab, you can't rush trials.
Of course you can.
Which
Everyone
they did.
knows. Common sense. Everyone knows that's a killer.
But everybody,
is he dumb? Is he just dumb? What is it?
First of all, at the time when
I don't know.
No, but also at the time the jab was only introduced, I think in, I want to say it was early. It was after his election, where it wasn't actually even implemented until he was out of office, let alone rendered mandatory or quasi-mandatory. So I agree with this. It's just the question as to where does the buck stop, but also where do you attribute malice, where you're dealing with a global pandemic. I mean, they're doing the same thing in Canada, so it's tough to blame it on Trump. They did the same thing across the world, so it's tough to blame it on Trump, let alone the consequences of a jab that was only released and implemented after he was out of office, let alone made mandatory, where you had the trial data coming in there. So the lockdowns, yes, you had the Barrington Declaration that was under Trump, but you had, an impossible situation.
You had Scott Atlas?
Say it again?
We had Scott Atlas, who was
you had Malone, you had Weinstein, you had a lot of people. But the bottom line is, it's not to give him a free pass, and I don't think he gets one on this issue. What some attribute to malice, I might attribute to the egotistical blind spot that he wants to, not pretend. I think he wants to believe that Operation Warp Speed was his signature success because the Dems loved it so much they implemented it and made it mandatory. So he wants to take credit for that. And I do. If he doesn't, if he not rescind it, renege on it, but if he doesn't look into it and understand what's going on and sort of implement that key tam lawsuit that Brooke Jackson has in his term, there will be a level of betrayal, but you got to get there. It's just that the blanket categorical condemnation for Trump when he was in an impossible situation and then out of office within 10 months of COVID.
I mean, I think that it's completely legitimate. I think that I hold Trump to the same standards that I would hold Biden to. Biden is not fit for office based on what he did during his presidency. Was it all Biden? No. Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. Where does the buck stop? Well, the buck stops, in my opinion, with the leadership, with the leader, the strongest guy in the room. Now, does that mean that we shouldn't scrutinize all the lower agencies? But see, this gets to the bigger issue, Viva. And I think that we know, and you would probably agree with me, and everyone that I would talk to within would be known as the medical freedom community understands that this was a global coup d'etat. This was a military operation that was deployed. The DOD ran this out or ran this operation. And we have from Robert Malone, Sasha Latipova, there's a lot of evidence. There's an enormous amount of evidence there that this was a military operation. This was deployed in the exact same way in Canada, the United States of America, France, Germany, the UK, Australia, New Zealand, the Netherlands, you name it, right? So we're dealing with a much bigger monster than just the president.
But I want to. Someone ask first. Of all, I'm gonna bring this one up because I'm gonna bring up the haters tonight. Yeah. Viva, don't forget you were one of the normies falling for the bullshit. Chris, I don't know what world people are. People hold it against me that I got the Pfizer shot twice. People hold that against me as if I did it because I believed it was safe and effective. And if you ever find a tweet of me saying that other people should take it and shouldn't be allowed, good, I'll give you $10,000 if you find a tweet where I said anything remotely similar. People don't understand what it's like to have a neurotic Jewish mother that says, you know what? Why don't you do it? And like at some point, like my only normie stupidity was not realizing how dangerous it could have been because we didn't have the myocarditis statistics at the time. And I didn't even appreciate the inflammation, that aspect of it. But, dude.
No, I don't ascribe to that. Listen, I understand how emotional, like there was so much emotional turmoil and there was so much pressure. I mean, the conversations that I had with my husband, who is a very smart man. I love him dearly. He's a bit of a rule follower, but the pressure that he was getting in his workplace, in his workspace to get the shot, we went back and forth and back and forth. I had discussions with my own 16-year-old son who would have had the opportunity to go and get it on his own. Every single family dealt with an enormous amount of pressure. My mother lost her job. She was a nurse of 25 years in Rochester, and she was fired for refusing the COVID-19 vaccine. My sister was an accountant for a large university in Rochester. She lost her job. They fired her. She was working from home because she didn't get the COVID-19 vaccine. But a lot of people, the pressure was so great that they submitted. And so I would never, like, I have,
the other thing is,
I understand why people got it. They didn't want it. They were coerced. It was the most evil thing that ever happened.
I'll take it one step further. Even if I wanted to take a chance getting my credit, let's just say I like playing Russian roulette, it turns me on. If I can do whatever the hell I want with my body, and anybody who tries to shame me for that, oh, you played into it. No, I was out there at the protests. I was out there, starting fights with the people asking for the vaccine passport to enter retail stores in Canada. But anyways, it doesn't matter. The question, but my issue is this, and I'm not giving Trump a pass at all, and nor have I, and people can go back and check whatever they want.
Though, that's the problem. We can get to that.
We'll get to that in a second. But I'm not sure that he is, because he's not yet in office to answer some questions and implement some payback that we want. But the bottom line, March 2020, when the world is in turmoil, when they had already impeached Trump once, when they were looking for a way to criminally charge him for reckless and whatever. You have a world that's in crisis. You have a guy that's not a scientist. And in hindsight, we're now expecting him to say he should have challenged Pfizer for the trials that really only occurred within the last 3 months of his presidency. He should have challenged the lockdowns coming. I mean, yes, he made some bad choices. And that's the biggest thing that everyone has to make sure he doesn't make again second time around. We'll get there. But it's not a question of being forgiving because I like Trump. It's a question of holding him to a fair standard where it was a world in crisis. It was states acting independently, and whether or not there was some ratification of lockdowns in the early times. You remember how much flack he got for talking about Sweden, for talking about the red light therapy. And so
right.
I think retrospect,
he also had very harsh words for governors who did not lock down and enforce lockdowns and masking. So we have a bunch of tweets, old tweets, Twitter never dies, from Donald Trump getting after, I forget who the governors were. I think he went after Florida and he went after South Carolina. Nikki Haley maybe was one. There were a few others that were not locking down. And, he had strong words for them. So that bully pulpit is powerful. And when you hand that bully pulpit as a president over to Anthony Fauci and you give it to him for 6 months and Dr. Birx, then you're handing over the American people our representative republic, our Bill of Rights. You're handing that all over to people who are not elected, and they had their way with us, and they inflicted enormous amounts of damage. My concern, Viva, and the reason I'm so feisty on Twitter and I'm so feisty on my show is that I am almost positive that there will be no reckoning. Politicians do not do their mea culpas after you give them power. They only do that before you give them power, when they're trying to get your vote. Now that he's been elected into office, it is very, very clear. Susie Wiles, Scott Bessent, Howard Lutnick, Dr. Mehmet Oz, Dr. Marty Makary, Dr. Neshowitz of Fox News. These are terrible, horrible, bad, deep. I cannot overemphasize how bad these people were, especially Neshowitz. She was a lockdown pimp. She was a mask pimp. She was a double mask pimp. She was recommending vaccines to pregnant women. Dr. Marty Makary was recommending vaccines to pregnant women less than a year ago on Twitter. Okay, 2023, where we have mountains of. What was the point of Naomi Wolf in the Pfizer papers? Why do we talk on one hand about Naomi Wolf in the Pfizer papers and what we know these vaccines are doing to pregnant women, and on the other hand, offer Makary, who refuses to say anything about that? He's still supporting the COVID-19 vaccines. And in addition to that, he will not commit to removing the mRNA vaccines from market. Same with Neshowitz. They've done like little bit like, oh, maybe we got a few things wrong. There are dead people. Talk to the victims of React 19. Talk to people who are debilitated because of vaccine injury, and they aren't getting anything. It is so wrong.
What's amazing is
I just can't bear it.
You won't get much disagreement from me on some of the current picks, and the fact that there's RNA in the current RSV. What is it? The respiratory.
RSV. Yeah.
It's what's amazing is they're making it impossible for people to eat what they would have otherwise gotten. I think the flu shot is idiotic in any event because you still get the flu. You're not going to get pushback from me on that. My only issue, or my biggest issue with you, is at least it's a criticism of anything and everything, regardless, when it comes to Trump. And not that I'm giving, there's no forgiveness for that which is not forgivable. And that's why I think putting the pressure on some of these current picks, and if it gets big enough, there might be some meaningful impact. The highlight, you by the way, you cannot go back and find a Neshawat interview where she's not saying something wildly disqualifying. It's impossible.
Well, but this is where I'm like, what the heck is going on here? Because I do feel like I'm being gaslit. Are they like trolling us right now with this one?
The gaslighting thing is a bit of an also reading of intentions where I do like question whether or not there's, whether or not whoever's making the decisions says we need to like give some to get some, which I hate, which I think is a stupid, terrible strategy. And I hope that's not the strategy. The only problem is the flip side is maybe he doesn't know of all the things that Neshawat has said, and that the public outcry will raise to his awareness that she's should be disqualified for the position. But going back to 2020, 2021, and holding Trump to what is now current knowledge and was not knowledge at the time, and also to a standard that would have been impeachable and condemnable to prison, because I'm thoroughly convinced had he done anything that would have stood up to the Birxes and the Faucis at the time, given the knowledge, they would have impeached him and they would have tried him for crimes against humanity. The problem is now, knowing what we know for the last 4 years, and he gets into office and he's got RFK Jr. there, if he doesn't investigate the Pfizers and bring some justice there, he will have ratified the crime against humanity. The issue and the argument is that Neshawat is not going to hold much of a position of power, but Surgeon General is a pretty damn big position. We'll see if we can get him to rescind the offer or get her to politely decline.
I mean, we've had a little bit of success in pushing back the medical freedom movement. I think that there were some who thought that the elevation of RFK Jr. to position of the head of HHS would satiate the medical freedom community and all of the doctors who lost so much in standing up for what was the truth. And so we're seeing now, I mean, I can tell you, I'm not the only one out there issuing these criticisms. And on a side point, when you mentioned that I focus my negativity or negative attention on Trump exclusively. Unfortunately, this is the political world that we live in, where Trump is the centerpiece. He is the lightning rod. And everything revolves, whether I like it or not, right? There is. And so I will often, if you watch my show, most people don't realize this. Again, I think I'm a little feistier on Twitter than I am on my app.
Everything gets read a little bit more aggressively and nastily when it's in written form versus spoken. Right.
Well, and I can bite. I mean, I'm not gonna. I get it. I know. And so if I get pushback, I got to be a big girl, and take it. Because if I'm gonna flap my gums and yap, I better be ready to get the criticism back. But you will notice on my show, we will delve in. We will occasionally mention Trump, and sometimes if it's something particularly egregious, where he is elevated, he's making a statement talking about how great Operation Warp Speed is, like 4 years after this, which is just outrageous to me. I'll mention it. But, we've recently, my show is very guest heavy, and we get like deep into it. We've had Catherine Austin Fitz on and Ed Dowd. We're talking a lot about what's going to happen with finance. And there are a lot of people in this medical freedom community who believe that we are dealing with a criminal cartel in Washington, D.C. It is a criminal cartel. It is, and it's not over. But what happened during COVID was just the beginning, and the next round is going to come, and it's going to come under Trump, and he's going to be the guy that sells the vaccine or whatever the new thing is to conservatives. And so that.
But this is where. This is where I start having a problem. Hold on, let me just let my dog in here. He's going to drive me crazy.
Yeah, you're fine. You're fine.
This is where, okay, not to say I think you go off the rails, but this is where sometimes the criticism becomes mutually incompatible. Where the one I took issue with was when RFK endorsed Trump, and you said I'll never trust him again. But now you say, well, now that he's been appointed to a position of power that I like, so I'm going to trust him. Where You severed those.
No, I
you
don't.
severed
I
those-
don't trust them. I don't trust anyone.
Well, and that's the other problem, is not trusting anyone, as if to suggest. First of all, we agree on the cartel. The cartel is the pharmaceutical industry and the lobby, and it's not just pharmaceutical.
Bankers.
It's well, the bankers and foreign influence, and all the lobbies are various cartels, all fighting politically for power.
Right.
If what you're saying, though, is the case, that you're basically saying like Trump is going to be a player in the cartel, and so it
That's
goes
right.
that. Okay, and now, so let me ask you this, and I don't know what your position is on this, but you do believe he was actually they tried to actually kill him? Like, you're not of the.
I believe that I witnessed what appeared to be an assassination attempt on the life of the nominee, Donald Trump, and I'm going to leave it at that.
No, you can't. I'm sorry. You can. I'm not going to let you leave it at that.
It doesn't matter what I think. Listen, I'm not an expert in ballistics. I'm not an expert in anything like that, and I didn't even dive too deeply into it. I witnessed what I witnessed. It was very scary. And everyone says that he became a new man. He found Jesus, or I don't know, some new higher thing. And he came out of that, and then just cruised on up to the presidency. And it happened. And I'm just leaving it at that, Viva. I'm not going any further than that.
No, but you won't. Well, that doesn't mean I'm not going to ask you. But this is
I
going to
know
be some
you
sort
are,
of a cross-examination.
Right.
Because you do talk a lot about the WWE theatrics, and there were a bunch of people online suggesting Trump popped the blood thing and it was fake, and whether or not Corey Comparatore actually got killed, and they believe that. But Trump is so vicious that he would allow for one of his own supporters to get the bullet. Do you believe that he got shot through the ear?
There's no way for me to know or verify that. There are a lot of things that I can't verify. I wasn't there. I don't have access.
Well, but you have no problem. There's a lot of things you can't know and verify, and yet nonetheless come to hard conclusions about as to what went on behind the scenes and what Trump could have done 4 years ago.
I'll tell you, I am very, very diligent. I mean, I know exactly what Trump did from the moment he came into office in terms of legislation. I followed it very closely, reported on it. The help of Daniel Horowitz from The Blaze in 2016, 17, 18, and 19, actually 17, 18, and 19, and 20. And I look at discernible policy outcome. So I do not care what politicians say. I believe they lie to you 100% of the time. I watch what politicians do once they're elected. I read the bills. I see the initiatives that they put in place, and then I report that to my audience. When Donald Trump was entering his 4th year of his presidency in 2020, we documented exactly what he did. And he had a role in what happened to us. There are plenty of things that happen in the news cycle that I have no eyewitness. I have no expertise in the matter. There's no way that I can verify or not verify. And on those things, I kind of just sit back. I might have my own hunches about things, but I'm not going to, how can I make a determination about what is going on in the Middle East, for example? It's very hard to get trusted sources. I have a couple, and in terms of discernment, I do know exactly what happened in hospitals because I was eyewitness to much of it. I do know real victims of the COVID-19 vaccine. I do know that I was locked down. My children were force masked. Okay. We had businesses small mom and pops put out of business, the single largest transfer of wealth from small to medium-sized businesses to huge, massive global corporations that cashed in on death and destruction in the most callous and disgusting way ever imaginable. I know exactly what happened during COVID lockdowns because I was there.
Well, you were there for what you were there.
I'm going to talk about, right? Why would I talk about things? Yeah, I was there.
You were there for what you were there for, and so you can only speak to for which you were there for what you were there for.
I can tell you, I mean, my best girlfriend, Aisha, was she had the protocol issued against her, and she was on a ventilator for 11 days, and we had to get an attorney in order to go in and for a judge forced the hospital to administer ivermectin to her. I drove her to the hospital. Okay, I was behind her husband when we were going to the hospital. So I was with multiple families whose loved ones, their elderly moms and dads and grandparents died alone in nursing homes. I've had George Watts Sr. on my program. The death and the destruction that I was an eyewitness to is something that I know for a fact. Wherever the media cycle wants to take me or you, I'll take it in, and I might wonder about it, but I'm not going to make a definitive statement on it. Why would I do that? I can't know.
you can, but if the argument is you can't know that except for what you've seen with your own eyes, which in and of itself is still problematic, because you can know people who, I mean, to play devil's advocate, I've known plenty of people who, well, but you could, I've seen it with my own eyes, but I don't know, I don't know what went on inside their body. I mean, that's a bit of a cop out to not answer a question, which would cause
I
a
don't
bit
have
of
an
a problem.
opinion on it. It's not a cop out. I just don't have an opinion.
Well, an opinion on whether or not something happened as a matter of fact.
What happened was what happened, according to all the news, was that there was an assassination attempt on Donald Trump's life in Butler, PA. So why would I question that? Why would I have an opinion on that?
Okay, so I guess, well, I mean, you would, I mean, it's like saying I've never walked across the earth so that I can't confirm that it's round. I mean, this is literally the exact same argument that flat earthers have used with me.
Right, but when you come out of COVID-19 and you see all the videos of people dropping dead in China and all of the fear mongering and the fear porn and the absolute fakeness, remember the more that was totally fake. So
absolutely, and the reason why you can confirm that that's fake now is that somehow, for some reason, it all just stopped happening all of a sudden. Right. And as if from a respiratory virus, people dropped dead in the first place. I mean, that you can assess. The reason why it's a bit of a cop-out to say I'm not going to take a position on whether or not I think they actually tried to kill Trump, not once, but twice, and maybe even 4 times, is because it would put a bit of a problem in your theory that Trump is part of the cartel or is now an active player in it, unless you think it did happen.
Yeah, I don't need that. All you need to know is that Scott Bessent is your Treasury Secretary. And Scott Bessent has been a 20-year associate of George Soros, the #1 villain in conservative media, okay? In fact, Scott Bessent is so close to George Soros that he was his right-hand man when George Soros pocketed $1 billion, crashing the British pound. Bessent was right there. He was manipulating that along with Soros. He's been a beneficiary of Soros underwriting for 20 years. He became a billionaire because of George Soros. The fact that Donald Trump is putting the exact same swamp monsters back into the swamp. Susie Wiles, his chief of staff, is so connected to big pharma through Mercury Public Affairs, 2 lobbying firms that she worked for. Guess who their clients were? Pfizer, Gavi, Monsanto, UN. She is a notorious pharma lobbyist. So when you see all of the king's men surrounding Donald Trump, I don't need to go into any kind of wild conspiracy theory to know that he's a player. And that he has the same big bankster billionaires and the technocrats like Peter Thiel. By the way, let's talk about Peter Thiel.
You want to?
Because I can go.
No, but you can go because you can go and gloss over the one that you just did without any. I'm not going to give much pushback because the Bessent I'm not familiar with. I just wanted to show that you are in fact correct about George Soros ties. But Shannon, I mean, this is how, to some extent, you're dealing with people who. I'll play devil's advocate, even though Well, you're dealing with people who are coming from an area where any one that you pick will have some form of a tie to some extent or another. I had on Ed Dowd. You know who Ed Dowd is?
Oh, he's BlackRock. I know, but Ed is standing up against all of this and speaking out against it. Scott Bessent isn't.
I don't know what Scott. I have to look into.
I get to talk to Ed Dowd. So Ed Dowd, I can get him on the phone and we can chat about things. I can ask him really hard questions.
But you realize that there's a great many people out there who say Ed Dowd, he worked for BlackRock, he's got to be in on it. So I'll never trust him.
He's an actual whistleblower because he's actually standing up against BlackRock. Scott Bessent isn't blowing the whistle on anything. He's doing the same old, and so is Susie Wiles. That's the difference. People need a whistleblower means that you come out and then you take apart the industry that you were part of based on your expertise. And there are plenty of great whistleblowers out there, people like Sasha Latipova and Brooke Jackson and Ed Dowd. And I trust them because they continue to stand up and speak out. Scott Bessent is nowhere near that. He never said a word about COVID or lockdowns or Operation Warp Speed or corruption or cutting the debt and deficit or the transfer of wealth from the lower to middle class to multi-gazillionaires during 2020, single largest transfer of wealth. Okay. He's not saying anything. He is ready to go pedal to the metal with the exact same stuff that they were doing in the first administration of Donald Trump. And I mean, you could go on. I mean, you could go down. We haven't talked about Peter Thiel. Big problem. Elon Musk, big problem. Elon's a huge problem. He is the biggest corporate welfare queen on the planet. And he was so far up the you-know-what of the Democrat Party for many years with his government subsidies and all of, in the carbon credit markets. By the way, Tesla doesn't make a profit unless they cash in their carbon credits. So he's all in on the carbon. These guys are leftist progressives, and even worse so in terms of the technocracy. If you understand what a technocracy is, it's even more dystopian. These are all the people surrounding Trump right now. There's no difference. And so
you do appreciate that no matter who you substitute for, you will be able to make the same criticism of the marriage between, or the relationship between private enterprise and government. And if you don't have any private enterprise in it, then your criticism is going to be there is no private enterprise.
I would have loved Ron Paul or Ed Dowd for Treasury Secretary. I'd be perfect. I'd be okay. That's a good pick. I'm okay with RFK. The jury's out for me with RFK, but I'm okay with him. Okay. The rest, it's breathtaking.
The rest. But I'm going to say, like, I don't agree with the positions either. The question is, Mehmet Oz is.
Oh my God.
I don't know how they picked Mehmet Oz or Jeanette over Lopado. Like, I don't know how they make these decisions. The one thing I can acknowledge is
because they're corrupt. That's why. It's easy. It's easy. Susie Wiles is protecting pharma because Susie Wiles has always protected pharma because Susie Wiles is a pharma lobbyist. So the question is, who is Susie Wiles really working for? Is she working for Trump or is she working for pharma? It's really difficult to know the difference with these people, okay? Because they weave in and out and in, and we try to imagine, well, maybe it's this or maybe it's that. How about they're just corrupt? It is a corrupted apparatus. And this is why on my show, I talk about bottom up, localism, deregulation, decentralization. Catherine Austin Fitts is a rock star, a wealth of great information. There are so many people out there talking about all of the solutions that we would have if we could just get Washington, D.C.'s boot off of our neck and decentralize. But they won't do that. They want the power. They want the money. And it's
I'm sure, but I'm not. Am I wrong? And is Aaron wrong? I'm fairly certain Elon has called to end subsidies, and in fact, the risk of the subsidies.
He's taking them.
But that's like saying Trump should pay more taxes than he has to because he wants. That's. I mean, this is where it just becomes. And but Kamal's not an argument. In fact, Kamal is the abandonment of reason. He said things, but you expect him to not take the subsidies while they're there. You expect Trump to pay more taxes than he has to. If there's problems with the tax code, fix the tax code. Don't expect people to voluntarily pay more taxes. And then the bottom line is also, if Elon is not involved in the government, the criticism to Elon would be he's not doing the government's bidding to get the subsidies, but now he's doing the government's bidding because he's scared of having sanctions.
Yeah, there are all kinds of billionaires and millionaires and people out there that I don't really bother with. I don't care how much money they have. I don't care what they do with their businesses. I don't care how they live their lives. It's the ones who write executive orders and issue nationwide lockdown orders and declare emergencies and shut us down and try to work their way with us. Those are the billionaires that I have a problem with.
As you should.
If you're all up in my business and in the business of my children, then you're going to get it. You're going to get it back from me. Right.
Well,
they have their workers and their planes and whatever those billionaires do your thing. I don't care.
You are
just
familiar
get out
with
of my life. Yes. What we experienced in 2020 was the most traumatic thing that ever happened to I know that there are so many other Americans out there who agree with me on this. We're not over this. It was the worst dystopia, the worst tyranny this country has ever seen. I was arrested by that.
First of all, it was traumatizing for me as well, and I'm not I'm not a victim because I got out of it pretty unscathed. But they turned our houses into prisons. I mean, we were in Quebec where we were under curfew for 5.5 months. I'll never forgive. And I agree with you. There are some people who have committed utterly disqualifying errors, and there's others who have committed criminal errors, and they both need to be held to account. And I think offering Jeanette Nishawat a position is ratifying what I would argue in her case was promoting child abuse. And I say it unapologetically.
Yeah,
but
she was awful.
And I felt I was going to bed last night and I felt like I might have gone a little too hard on criticizing her, but
no,
it doesn't matter. But no, where I say your trauma can lead to a certain flawed reasoning, and that is that you're going to criticize Elon regardless of what he does. You're going to criticize Peter Thiel regardless of what he does, but Peter Thiel was behind backing Rumble. So you have these conflicting.
I know, isn't that funny?
Well, some might call it illogical, your criticism, not fun. I mean,
No. What I do is I watch what they do and I opine on it, right? So when Elon purchased Twitter and I got my account back, I was a permanent, lifelong suspension on Twitter. And in the Elon purchase, I got my account back. I came on the air with my audience and I said, listen, I like this thing that Elon did. I don't trust Elon Musk based on this, and this. And I don't want to do my deep dive.
Yeah, but this is what's called motivated reasoning, where you say, I want to distrust, so I'm going to write off what he does that I should attribute trust to, and then emphasize that which I want to attribute mistrust to. Same thing with Peter Thiel.
Yeah, but I think you do the same thing. I think that you operate in that same way. You omit, right? You decide that because these are your political heroes, you decide that you don't care about the things that are right in front of your face. The things that they're doing that are right in front of your face, you're going to hold on to this sliver of hope that they're going to be the heroes you want them to be, and they're going to do the things that they said they were going to do. And when they do this one little thing, you cling to it and you say, but they did this. I watched conservatives do that with Donald Trump. They're like, he's terrible. He betrayed every promise. He did gun laws. He did red flag laws. He did criminal justice reform. He didn't build a wall. He never repealed Obamacare. He never defunded Planned Parenthood. He never did any of these things. Busted debt and deficit more than we had seen from any previous president before him. And they would say, but he gave us a conservative Supreme Court. One thing. And they held on to that one thing like the precious ring from Lord of the Rings, like they're precious forever to justify them in their vote, but also in their misplaced hope, which is what I would call it.
Well,
misplaced hope. You want him to be your hero. You want him to come in on that. And I would say that that's just as illogical as what you're accusing me of. It's just as unreasoned as what you're saying.
Well, no, but I could say at least because I'll only argue from my perspective.
I'm only arguing for mine.
No, I understand that, and the fact that you view people as turning Trump into a hero. This was the tweet exchange that led to this, and I say you've effectively, I won't say turned him into a villain, but turned him into something where this is one screen, two films. You're looking at it and saying, I'm going to disregard. Or you don't say it, but you effectively disregard what would contradict your assumption of corruption, which is a safe assumption more often than not. And you say, sure, Elon bought Twitter. Sure, Elon gave me my account back. Sure, Elon allowed free speech on Twitter that allowed.
I think he had an alternate. Agenda for bringing us back.
That is called motivated reasoning. But in my position, first, I've never treated anybody like a hero. Period. And I can say that I've criticized Trump for what I think he deserves criticism for. The bump stock ban. It deserves criticism. How much criticism is up for debate? Okay, he implemented or signed an executive order, I think it was, for the bump stock ban. It got overturned by the Supreme Court because
red flag laws too. Red flag laws too.
He definitely
gun first, due process later. The most gun control. Just hear me on this. Donald Trump legislated and signed the most gun control since Ronald Reagan, and the gun control that he put in place, more than Barack Obama, more than Bill Clinton. Okay. So this is when I say uniparty, I mean uniparty. I mean that I believe, based on my observations over the past 12 to 13 years, that these two parties work in tandem to work us against each other. That's why you want to not answer the question as to whether or not you think they actually tried to kill Trump because he was working so well with them that they actually, you don't want to take a position on that. Because it might undermine. I don't know why you want to corner me into in a position on that.
Because that's ridiculous. I'm not an expert on the earth, but I'm going to say it's no. But I can tell you why. Because you have a theory that they're working together, and so you need to craft everything to fit that theory. If they were working together, they wouldn't have tried to kill Trump.
If you read the legislation, Viva, which we did, and you compare Barack Obama's legislation, like the actual spending bills, the great example would be the defense spending bills. Okay, so these massive spending bills, and they're like copy and pasted. They're exactly the same. If you look from administration to administration to administration, when it comes to the money and the money being allocated, aside from a little bit of peripheral difference, they're exactly the same. This is a hard thing for people to get. We're so conditioned in this country to be D versus R. Now, I was R for a very, very long time. And it was quite painful to become emancipated from that two-party political atmosphere and that WWE wrestling match, which is what I call it. But I will tell you, once you accept or even open your mind to that kind of thinking, so much will make sense to you. Everything will begin to make sense. Everything begins to make sense.
I love the reading of intentions. David is trying to get her banned. She's on my channel, you dummy. Like, well,
what am I
why?
gonna get banned for?
Oh, no,
by the
well,
way, I worry about Rumble because I'm very mean to Peter Thiel, and I know that he is like, somewhat of a
no. I think it's in reference to I'm trying to get you banned by you coming on my channel and talking about things that would only get my channel a strike, not yours. But if I get you to say, as others have, that you don't think Trump was actually shot at, I presume
which
that's
which I didn't say.
No, I wouldn't even. First of all, I wouldn't care if you did. I would just use it to argue against the theory that these are two teams working together, and yet one is working so well with the other. They tried to kill him not once but twice. Unless you think those were false flags, Trump set it up himself.
That is Viva saying that, not me, by the way.
But I don't care. No, but I can steel man the argument that someone else might have, and I can even understand how they believe it.
Viva, without saying anything about the assassination attempt. I feel like I could sit down and I could probably write a dissertation and prove that these parties are more similar than they are different so easily. And then when you look at the fact that Donald Trump, they throw it right in our faces. They throw it. They're all buddies. They all hang out together. They go to the same parties. You know this, Viva. Come on, right now.
Well, this thing you're talking about.
Mika Brzezinski was at Mar-a-Lago for 2 days. Okay, and now
I don't know if she was there. I don't know if she
Yeah.
was there for 2 days. I know they were there, and I gave both of them a hard time, including
It was
Trump.
a multi-day. Okay, listen, these guys are in the same circles. Bobby Kennedy,
Well, they are in the
liberal Democrat.
They're in the same circles means nothing because we're all in the same circle at a big enough scale. So they're in the same circles because they're
We're
rich.
not in it, Viva. We're not in that circle.
We're in another circle. We're on the circle of Earth. We're all in the same circle. But it's obvious. Like you work in law, and I was I don't know if you know, I was a lawyer for 13 years, and it's a niche community. Like everybody knows everybody, and to say that I would be guilty of whatever other lawyers were guilty of because I know that we go to cocktail parties. I mean, it would be preposterous, but just above all else, false. So the fact that they're in the same circles, and they met. And I say, what the hell is Trump meeting with these snakes for? They're never going to be his friend.
Because he's always been a lifelong liberal Democrat.
Yeah, but now you're reading intention. I try to go with a rationale. I try to go with a rational explanation. What does he think he's doing? Maybe he thinks he can get in their good graces and have them run good media, as if anybody needs that media.
That is classic Trump.
I think it's classic. And I think it's stupid because I don't know who the hell's watching. I don't know what their ratings are compared to lowly schnooks like myself in their home studios. But the thing is, there are a lot of people who are, MAGA insofar as you say I won't name names, but there is that element. There's going to be that element everywhere. But the idea that Trump is somehow immune from criticism, because you float the idea, and yet some of the most viral-ish comments, tweets, engagement right now are about his bad picks. It contradicts the theory, but it's selective viewing because you go over.
I think that we have abilities now to mess with the algorithms a little bit because of the organization that has been built out of the medical freedom community and out of the movement against lockdowns. And so I can tell you, Viva, that I am in constant contact and communication with medical freedom warriors all over the world. And we are sharing, we're on text chains together. We are off of Twitter. We're on side groups. And so these discussions, the decentralization of media is amazing, right? I mean, I'm living proof of that. So it's not all that, listen, I'm very optimistic about where I think that we can go. But I think personally, I think the first step to emancipation is for the American people to emancipate from the two-party political system.
You can tell me what that means, but the other thing is to say, well, what I would do in a system that doesn't exist. If people, at least there's one.
Until it does.
It was either Trump or Kamala. So I don't adhere to the lesser of two evils because I think one was actual evil, and I think Trump hopefully will have learned from his mistakes because I don't think he was evil. But you live in a two-party system, and by the way, it's not much worse, or it's almost just as bad as the 7-party system that we have in Canada. And people say, "Oh, the two-party system is the problem. We need a parliamentary system like Canada." And you realize you can have 7 parties, but you still have a two-party system anyhow.
I don't direct my audience to centralized political solutions. So that's not a part of what we do on the Shannon Joy Show. So we report on what's going on in Washington because they are a threat to us, and we need to know where the threats are and what they're going to do to us. And we've been, as I mentioned, I've done probably 6 or 7 in-depth shows with some of the most brilliant economic and financial thinkers. We've dissected Bitcoin. We've dissected the currency, the dollar crisis, inflation, what is going to come in, the first round of Trump's presidency. You're laughing at something.
Yeah, I'm laughing at idiots in the chat who say things. I don't mean to yell at my own. Viva and Barnes took the money this time around. Oh my, okay, but this is confession through projection. This is why when some of your chat was accusing me of this, and I don't know if Toe has fire, I don't know if it's a joke, so I shouldn't overreact. But when someone in your chat said, Viva's getting paid by Trump, I'm like, okay, are you who made that comment getting paid by whomever? No, and it's you can't criticize Trump enough to even dispel it. So you're arguing.
Yeah, but some are though. Some are. This is what got me in trouble with Dan Bongino. He got really mad at me when I talked about the money that he has wrapped up in Truth Social. So there's in our industry we do have to be careful, and I'm not saying that you're doing that at all. And even if you did, listen,
no, but there's no even if. I don't like things get dirty when money changes hands. I'm exclusive with Rumble. We've got our awesome locals community, and we sell shirts.
I'm the same way. I'm very transparent with the audience about where how the business model works for my show. I think that's important, but in some cases they're not. There are. And this is one of the reasons I think that our side, or would you even consider yourself conservative? I don't even know you.
No,
I'm going to have you on.
Have
you on my show, and then I'm going to grill you on my. Come on
anytime. I'm not. Yeah. This is why people call me a Trump paid bag. I'm neither here nor there. The only thing I've come to the realization about is that we were lied to about the most fundamental aspects of geopolitics from day one. I unapologetically support Trump this time around, because if he did not get elected, it would have been ratification by the actual, what I believe to be the deep state. You don't have elections anymore. But then there is no arguing with someone who says it was all a big play. They're all the same people, and the deep state let Trump win because Trump's part of the deep state. There's no way to disprove that. What I believe is a thoroughly idiotic theory. And I say that with respect.
I think I've proven it. I think that we prove it every day. So I don't think it's idiotic at all. I think it's a very valid theory. And I would say that there are a lot of political analysts. You can go back to, Bill Clinton, his mentor was Carol Quigley. And Carol Quigley wrote a piece that was this thick called Tragedy and Hope. And Carol Quigley laid out very clearly how the erection of a two-party political system that offers up a false choice at every cycle is the way the oligarchs want it. They do that on purpose because it gives us the illusion of a choice.
But Shannon,
I'm just saying, when you say it's very foolish, when you say that I'm very foolish for positing that, what I will tell you is there are some great thinkers. And seminal pieces of political theory that have been written over the past 30 to 40 years by people much smarter than me, people who have influenced people like Bill Clinton, that will say essentially the exact same thing that I'm saying.
Yeah, I can
go down the list with you.
It's almost a truism or a tautological, is that it's a two-state party, and so anybody who gets involved in it is going to be part of that, and therefore it will be true all the time, even as much of an outsider as Trump was. It's a two-party system. The second he gets involved, he's part of this uni-party, according to you.
And I'm saying that's why I advocate, from my perspective, again, we're about truth, about what is happening, what Washington D.C. is going to do to us next so that we can survive, okay? Because a lot of people didn't survive the vaccine, Viva. A lot of people.
Okay. First of all, I know more people.
Guess who was out there getting arrested and losing her platforms and getting suspended from Twitter and all the things, because every single day I'd go on my show and I would say, wait on that vaccine. Just wait. There is clear, every single day. All right.
I remember the moment where
what I do, I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything. And I hope that I don't come off as too much of a, I think I know everything.
There's nothing about.
I don't, I promise. But if I thought that the answers to all of this were in DC and that Trump somehow had them, if I really thought that, I would say that to I would tell that to my audience. Okay. But I have to come in every day and tell them what I really believe. I really believe that Washington, D.C. is not the solution, cannot be this. It's too corrupted. And the only way for us to survive with freedom, a Bill of Rights, fundamental natural rights that we were given at the formation of this country, is if we decentralize and we become ungovernable. We refuse to comply with unjust laws and mandates. We set up parallel systems, parallel organizations. We embrace localism over globalism, and we get ready to resist any new Department of Defense, military martial law. You notice that both Donald Trump and RFK Jr. have promised us on day one that they are going to declare new emergencies, one for immigration and the other in terms of health. What does that mean? I'm gonna be right there opposing that. Like, I mean, you
sure, but go ahead. And had they not I listened to the RFK clip, and had RFK not said that he's going to declare an emergency on the child health epidemic, you'd be there on day one saying, "Why aren't you taking the child health epidemic?"
No, I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't.
Okay. Well, the thing is, you say you wouldn't. We can't know what you would do or what you wouldn't do. But this is where I say it is consistent. It's criticism regardless of what happens.
Because everything is centralized. Because I criticize all the time because it's always the same solutions that never get implemented and never ever work.
When RFK said he's going to declare an emergency on public health, do you think that he said, I appreciate he said like COVID, and I think he said that for another reason, not for lockdowns and forced mandates. What do you think that they're going to do? They're going to implement emergency measures to lock things down, or to potentially eliminate certain toxic ingredients? I remember
what Trump did. The last time he issued an executive order and declared a national emergency and locked us down, I really didn't like it. So I would.
But you say that he locked us down again, which is, it's not to absolve him.
The declaration of a national emergency puts in place a mechanism, and there are special powers and special, new authorities that are put in place that are very, 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 very dangerous to fundamental liberty. And so there is no reason. It's a straw man, Viva. This idea that the only way to solve, RFK's talking about food. He's talking about red food dye number 7. He's talking about fluoride. They're not even talking about vaccines. It's not even you. If you look at maha.com right now, you will know their vaccines and pharma are not even on the list of agenda items.
So the criticism here again is not in what he's saying. No, but but a blind criticism, or at least
blind. It's wide open, eyes wide open.
No, because you're saying it is kind of, I say blind. You're right. It's targeted, because no matter what he does, no matter what he says, it'll be a problem in terms of what he says, or it'll be a problem in terms of what he doesn't say.
That's simply not true. Well, you go to maha.vote. It's Make America Healthy Again.vote. That is one of my little organizations, and we're gathering signatures, and we've laid out very clearly exactly what we would like to happen in order to make America healthy again. And it starts with eliminating pharmaceutical liability protection that has been enshrined for the past 20 to 30 years in this country and was expanded under the emergency declaration of Donald Trump in 2020. Also, we would like to see an end, some type of national ban on any type of mandate. So any type of vaccine mandate, any type of course from any entity for any reason whatsoever. So we're very specific. And I could offer up to you probably an agenda item list of 100 things that I could get behind in a second. It is not my fault that they don't put those things out there and they don't talk about those things. That's not my fault as an analyst. As an analyst, I'm going to talk about the things that they're saying, and everything is bigger government. It's lockdowns. It's more centralized authority. It is never a devolving of power from Washington, D.C. It is always making them bigger. There's a number of things where
sorry is doesn't necessarily mean what you're saying is right. You have an element of the government that's going to eliminate jobs, reduce the size of the federal government. You have RFK, who's been out there for not just months, not just maybe decades, talking about the vaccine schedules and the correlation to disease. Now you're reading into the fact that after he's appointed or at least appointed to the HHS, he's not talking enough about it, but he's talking about red dyes. He's talking about fluoride, which has been correlated to lower IQ. He's talking about chemtrails. All of a sudden, people don't want to talk about that. And now it's not enough. And he's overtly, conveniently eliminating.
I'm saying it's an issue. It's an issue that we're keeping an eye on.
Good. Okay. But then give him credit for saying that we're going to eliminate we're going to tackle childhood obesity and we're going to tackle a public health.
No, I'm not going to give credit if he's going to issue a nationwide emergency declaration. We can do all this without issuing an emergency. It is a grotesque abuse of power for governors and presidents to issue national emergencies over and over and over so that they can grab more power. I don't like it. I would say the majority of conservative Republicans and people who lived through the last declaration of a national emergency understand this. And you don't need to do that in order to achieve the agenda items I think that RFK wants to put out. Same with the border and immigration. In fact, Daniel Horowitz over at The Blaze put together a beautiful piece about all the things that you can do to rein in the immigration problem and actually effectively deport all of the illegal aliens in this country without a national emergency. We don't need martial law. We don't need an emergency declaration. We can use the laws already on the books and just good old common sense actions to solve that problem. But they always force us in to this straw man solution that empowers the very people who have subjected us to tyranny in the past, and I'm just not into it.
Well, I agree with you in terms of, I agree with you if that's what the plan is in terms of the emergencies or declaring an emergency. I think this is it.
They can achieve everything that trifecta power, Viva. They have.
No, but I don't disagree.
They have the
that's not what. But that's not what I don't.
Anything they want.
That's not what I don't disagree with you on. What I disagree with you on is your understanding of what they mean when they say we're going to declare an emergency on
immigration. So you know what they mean? You know what they mean?
Well, I'm not saying I do.
You don't know any more than I know what they mean.
No, but you're the one talking as though they're going to implement camps and lockdowns and FEMA camps.
No, Viva. They said we are going to issue an emergency on day one.
Let me play the clip.
And on day one, we're going to declare an emergency like we did in COVID. But it's going to be a chronic disease emergency, and we're going to get the fluoride out of the water. We're going to get the chemicals out of the food. We're going to get the chemtrails out, the chemicals out of the chemtrails, and there's 1,000 ingredients in our food that are banned in Europe. And we're going to get rid of all those chemicals. And I know how to do it. And
I think that's effectively enough of what we do. So the question is this: we both heard the same thing, and one screen, two films. You hear it and think they're going to go COVID lockdowns.
No, I take him for what he says.
No, Shannon,
he said he's going to lock us down on day one, and he's going to talk about fluoride.
Wait, hold on. When did he say he's going to lock us down on day one?
On day one. Oh, sorry, I totally misspoke.
On day one. Oh, you interpret, but so we hear the same thing, and what I hear him saying is a sort of rhetorical. We're going to go after a real problem the way we went after
something COVID. Specifically. Viva, you're an attorney. He said on day one we are going to issue a nationwide emergency like COVID.
No, here. Let's hear it again.
Like COVID,
an emergency like we did in COVID.
On day one, we're going to declare an emergency.
An emergency
like we did in COVID. Okay, so what was the emergency with COVID? What accompanied that?
No, but Shannon, I mean, we hear the words.
Yeah.
The question is, what do you?
I take him at face value.
You do, but that's nice. That's like when the media pretends not to get a joke because they want to use it against him and make believe that he said something literal. So, but when did they talk about FEMA camps to export immigrants? Because I heard it and I feel like I missed something in terms of talking about locking down so they can deport illegal immigrants. Like this is where, Shannon, the thing is, we agree on 90, I would say 90+%. The centralized power and the abuse of emergency declaration, I was complaining about before COVID because up in Canada, they canceled Halloween because of a windstorm. Like, mother effers, I will send my kids out in the weather that I think is proper for Halloween. You're not going to cancel Halloween. But it's where I believe that some things come out and you say things that actually discredit what would otherwise be what we should all agree on. Yes. If they come down with emergency measures that I don't even know what they would look like in terms of banning food dye, then the question.
If they're going to do it, why not just take them for face value?
Well,
Why do you feel like you need to change it?
Because if someone says it's the best, if someone says it's the best meal I've ever had in my life, I'm not going to necessarily say, oh, you mean that you've never had any better meal in your entire life. This is the best car on earth. Oh, there is rhetoric and there is style, and I can understand
exactly what he's going to do. I'm just not understanding.
I mean, just like, what do you think the fear is that they're going to do in terms of fighting? What was it? It wasn't childhood obesity. It was hold on. He called it.
There's no fear.
Get the chemicals. Chronic disease emergency. I'm sorry, chronic disease emergency. Do you understand? Like, so what does that mean? Maybe it means that they're actually going to go after the vaccine schedules and try to reduce them, try to make them optional, so that people don't have to.
I think that you are extrapolating.
And I think you are as well.
You might be smoking a little bit too much of the hopium there.
Oh, I don't smoke, and I know, because I saw the word in the chat as well. But no, I mean, like the bottom line is, if he doesn't come out and say we're going to wage war, if he says we're going to wage war on chronic disease, I mean, you'll fault him for not saying it. And I don't read that as saying they're going to come out with emergency declarations, lock us down. If the other thing is this, when people say like, okay, I'll make the choice, just let me know what the toxic dye is and I'll buy the stuff that doesn't have it. I don't believe in legalizing or empowering the government to outlaw Slurpees. And so then I can understand, like, okay, we all agree it's terrible, but we don't want the federal government banning food dyes. I mean, is that going to be the other argument?
It would be preferable for them to not declare an emergency and give to themselves extraordinary powers to do whatever they want with us.
But what if extraordinary powers?
Once they do that, Viva, you have no power. All of a sudden, the executive, the executive order comes down, and you don't get to have a debate about whether or not you can have a Slurpee.
But what do you think? What would that executive order look like?
I don't know.
It would. Well, but you have to think about it. If they're going after,
there are a million ways that they could do this, Viva. And
chronic disease emergency. You don't want them to wage a war on chronic disease.
The declaration of war against drugs, chronic disease, it's been very well documented that it's always an agenda to, shift money around. And I mean, listen, I think we're getting in the weeds here. And when are we done? This is the longest interview I've ever attended. It's been very fun.
I was just waiting for you to get tired.
I'll tell you what, this is like playing chess with Bobby Fischer, man. I feel like my brain is smoking right now, Viva. Like,
let's take a little break here.
And I'm like,
I get what she's saying. Very easy speculation, doom, gloom path to take. If wrong, there's an easy spin out. But if things don't go as expected, it's there. I told you, easy.
I'm not doom gloom. My whole audience, they love me. They don't think I'm gloomy at all.
No, I know that's the criticism, is that you're doing it to gain an audience. I don't make that criticism because first of all, I don't think you gain an audience by being wrong. I think you gain an audience by being right, and I think you're right on a lot. But I genuinely think
I'm right all the time.
Well, no, you're not, because what you're reading into RFK is I had a friend just like you back in Canada. No matter what would have been done by way of food, he would have criticized it. Don't bleach the outside of eggs. You're going to complain about risking salmonella. Bleach the outside of eggs. He's going to complain that you're applying toxic chemicals to the eggs. That's not me.
That is an unfair characterization of what I do every day. And I will tell you, my audience would argue with you because
I'm sure they would. But let me ask you this, Shannon. The picture,
empowerment, hope, independence, emancipation every single day. No one is afraid in my audience. No one was afraid of big bad COVID in my audience. No one was smothered behind 2 masks in my audience. No one was being gaslit on a daily basis in my audience, because we come together and we talk about the truth. We lay it right down on the kitchen table. And do I speculate a bit as a analyst and an observer of politics? Yes, I have my opinions. Sometimes I'm wrong, sometimes I'm right. But the audience comes because they want to hear. See, here's the problem in conservative media, is that no one says the things I'm saying. This is the reason my audience is growing.
Well, first of all, I would disagree with that, because some people are saying some of the things you're saying, and the fact that
no one ever criticizes Trump ever.
But that's not true. I put out a tweet just yesterday. I put out a plan about how he has to disavow Operation Warp Speed.
I love it. Good. I hope to see more of it.
But the fact that some people, the fact that everyone, or there might be nobody else saying what you're saying, that's not necessarily a good thing either. Let me ask you this. I'm going to put you on the spot, Shannon. And by the way, tell me when you need to go. I didn't realize.
Okay,
I take for granted.
let's go for like another. By the way, Viva, thank you very much. I enjoyed this.
I love it. And I think a lot of my chat loves you. I don't think some of them have seen you before. And I think more might be in agreement with you than in disagreement.
No.
The McDonald's photo up, Shannon. Do you think that was AI, or do you think that that's an actual photo?
Oh gosh, I've gone back and forth on that. I was leaning that it was like superimposed. It was AI, that they were all sitting there and then they were kind of trolling us, I guess, a little bit. But I also think, this is what I will tell you. I mean, McDonald's used to be a client of mine way back in the day. I wrapped buses. I wrapped like a dozen city buses in bus wraps for McDonald's. They're a great client. Love them. But I will tell you, from a marketing and advertising perspective, the little stunt that Trump pulled with, going to McDonald's and serving up the fries and all of that happening, and then that image, whether it was AI generated or not, I can guarantee you there is a marketing angle there. There is not a chance that the C-suite did not know exactly what was going on, that there haven't been discussions, and I would guess that there's going to be some type of my guess is there's going to be some type of McDonald's is embracing. McDonald's is getting rid of seed oil. That's going to be the play. And they're going to get rid of seed oils, and they're going to start frying up their French fries in beef tallow. And that's going to be like the new big marketing campaign. And it's all building. But I see those and my radar goes off. I'm like, that is a marketing campaign, 100%. I have no idea like what the particulars
Shannon,
are.
Do you not see that this goes back to what I say, criticizing the things that are good, or criticizing regardless? Imagine if McDonald's, imagine McDonald's actually goes back to beef tallow. You should be celebrating that and not criticizing it.
Well, listen, it is not okay for presidents or sitting government officials who have access to an enormous amount of power it's not appropriate, or I would say, if
it's not transparent, if they are actually doing it, it's sort of underhanded.
So unethical. It's so profoundly unethical that, it opens up a whole Pandora's box of really bad things. But we see it all. They're pimping Bitcoin right now. Wait till you see right now, they are right in front of our faces. There is now what Catherine Austin Fitts has called an AstroTurf campaign to totally pimp and like pump up the value of Bitcoin in a pump and dump scheme. And she wrote it up in Solari. She's brilliant. I don't know if you know Catherine Austin Fitts.
I did not get to listen to that interview before this one, which was the only thing that was kicking myself, but I'm going to listen to it afterwards.
She knows what she's talking about. Like she operates at 800 level politics. I even have a hard time keeping up with her. I have people who are much smarter than me on the show, but people need to be very, very concerned about what kind of shenaniganizing is going to go on in terms of, like, Viva, right now we have a very serious currency crisis. We have a lot of pressure from BRICS nations. They're placing pressure on the dollar. These attempts to de-dollarize. We have rampant inflation. Inflation unchecked. It's crushing small businesses, average families. And we have a debt bomb that, we've been talking about for 20, 30 years, but it is accelerating to a point where many, many very savvy financial advisors and, people who are watching the markets are saying that, they're going to try something, and they're going to potentially try something with Bitcoin or crypto. And you can see the signals, the fact that
people are calling that with the FTX scandal in terms of laying the way for regulating digital currency.
Yeah.
But the flip, the other one where it'll be criticism one way or the other, or suspicion one way or the other, which is not a bad thing.
No, but here's the thing though, Viva. If people have knowledge about what is really going on, they can protect themselves, right? And this is why I go back to, the fact that so many in my audience and the people that I connect to during COVID, so many people have sent me emails and letters. Shannon, I would have gotten the vaccine if it weren't for listening to your show. Shannon, thank you for, being that, one of the few voices out there that was just urging caution and helping people, like, getting as much information and the smartest people I could possibly find to come in and educate me, educate my audience. But those people had to be outside of the two-party political system because the two-party system,
they didn't have to be outside. They didn't.
They were. A lot of them were. There were Democrats and Republicans, but they weren't locked in the way that so many of us are. And so, moving forward, people are going to get, what is coming financially, I think, is going to be very, very difficult for a lot of people. And the thing is, there are a lot of people who are going to get hoodwinked and snookered into, investing in things that are clearly scams. And so,
well, you're going to get pushback for the Bitcoin being a scam and like the pump and dump. It's been around for a decade. A pump and dump has to be a little bit short. My concern about the Bitcoin push for Bitcoin is to create something of a centralized digital currency, and they're going to say Bitcoin is the unregulated one, and we're going to have a regulated national one.
Yeah, they're going to do
real
that
risk.
too. Yeah, and we talked to, if you guys want to go back, I had a great interview with Peter Schiff, great interview with Catherine Austin Fitz. We had Ed Dowd on and got him to weigh on. These guys don't always agree on everything either, Viva. Like, I get differing opinions here, but they are some of the brightest and the best, and the most brilliant. And so I go out there and just try to find the best teachers I can and bring them to the audience, and that's what I do.
I will not keep. I say, Shannon. I forget who it was. Someone there. I shouldn't read the chat. It says like, "Oh, she's right more than he is." We don't disagree on very many things here. Where I tweet out at you and tag you is when I think you say something that that discredits what would otherwise be the tenable positions. And the number one is the McDonald's one, because I heard you listen. I was listening to that. I forget which podcast it was.
Yeah.
Then you say, "Oh, I bet they're going to come out with the campaign and go back to Talon." I'm like, that's a good thing. And now, whether or not it was secret collusion or McDonald's saying, "Let's expand on that opportunity now," to then capitalize off RFK saying, "Go back to Tallow," and that you're going to criticize that, like a big bad company doing a good thing to be a little bit healthier, and you're going to criticize RFK for saying, "Let's declare war on the health epidemic," because I don't like the fact that he used the emergency declaration.
There are good things and bad things about that, right? It doesn't have to exist in a vacuum. And I would say, Viva, like, what are the nice things that you can say about Kamala Harris and Biden's administration? Like,
nice things I can say.
Did you just criticize them all the time?
That would be a bad example, but I'll say something that I just said nice about Trudeau. No, because I really think Kamala Harris, the nice thing that they did is that they were so detestable that they didn't get elected. That was the nice thing they did. What did Joe Biden do?
So you're doing the thing that you are also doing the very thing that you're accusing me of doing, right? Because you see Biden as a villain, you see Trudeau as a villain.
No, hold on, no. I don't see Biden as a villain. He is a villain, and I don't see Trudeau as a villain. He is a villain. Trump is not a villain. He's not a hero. He's
this is where I disagree with you. I think that Trump might be a villain.
Yeah, he might be, and you might find out.
But
might versus confirmed villainy. Joe Biden confirmed villainy.
Yeah,
and Justin Trudeau confirmed villainy. But even he's a confirmed villain. He just suspended the taxes on food and restaurants. I was like, that's a good thing to do. But he's doing it for bad reasons because an election is coming up. Good thing. I'm trying. Let me actually think about what Biden did that was good.
It's okay. You don't have to. If he's a
villain, because I know that there is one.
But I do think there's this. People often are like, well, you have to say some nice things, and there are nice things to say, but within.
Hold on, I got one. No tax on tips. I liked when Kamala said that. Build the wall. I liked it when she said that too. That was a good policy. I know Joe Biden did something where I said, yeah, that's actually one of the good things. I think it had to do with potentially legalizing marijuana. I forget what it was exactly. But no, they are confirmed villains through their acts that I think we can all agree on. Trump might be a villain. We'll see. I think he's proven himself not to be. But that's not to say he's a hero either. He's not beyond reproach, and I think that he is susceptible to the backlash of the populist movement that got him elected.
Here's what I'll end with, Viva. Okay, and I tell this to people all the time who are, and this is what I will tell my family when I go and see them at Thanksgiving. And again, they love Trump. They are Trumpers, right? And in my house, even though I'm not a huge Trump fan, people can talk about any kind of politics they want. There are no rules in our house. We love each other no matter what, even if we have differing ideas. But what I say very often, though, to people like you is that, I come in every day. of course, have my particular take on, these issues and these politicians. But in so many ways, for those who have a lot of hope for the Trump administration, a lot of hope for what RFK is going to do and what they can achieve in the next, year and a half, in so many ways, I hope you're right. Okay. So when I am contrarian and I'm saying these things, it is not because I want these things to happen. I hope that I'm completely wrong. I would love to be wrong. I would love to come into January, February, March, April of next year and say, Viva was right. They did this, 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 and this. And that is actually like the truth from the bottom of my heart. Right. Because what we both want, what do we want? A functioning country and freedom.
I want Trump to lock some motherfuckers up is what I want to do. Now he won't do it.
He won't do that.
Unrealistic
He won't
about
ever
that.
do that. Yeah.
But the social shunning once all is exposed would be good. But I agree. If Trump does not investigate the jab and RFK does not look at Pfizer, and if they don't revive the Ketam fraud case against Pfizer, I will be very vocal about that. And with any luck, make sure the next JD Vance presidency does it. And if not, then they'll get the people will get what they deserve.
Keep waiting and hoping, Viva.
No. But going from there to say I'm not sure if the McDonald's picture is AI and it's a troll, they're mocking us.
Fun. We're just having
fun.
I said, but you're taking it too seriously, Viva.
No, well the problem is it's the there's a lot of noise coming from outside there. It is the blanket criticism, regardless of what is done. Like, McDonald's is evil for going back to tallow. Dude, that would be a big fat win. And
I
whether
didn't
they do
that he was evil for going back to tallow.
Yeah, he says it's like part of the scheme. They're all
unethical to take marketing money from commercial.
Well, or they just see the opportunity. If I'm McDonald's, the opportunity was there with Kamala or with Trump, except it's better with Trump.
You put things in my mouth that I don't say. Because I didn't say that it would be evil if McDonald's went back to beef tallow.
No, you were describing it as this collusion between the
I was joking around saying I know what's going to come next. There's going to be some, and watch me. I'm going to be totally wrong on this. It's not even happening.
Okay, that podcast about Fire and Fury that I forget where you mentioned to watch that.
That was interesting.
That was garbage. Everyone should go listen to that. That was 30 minutes of the most unhinged Trump derangement syndrome rubbish, trying to establish a connection. It was. Everyone should go listen to it. Who was the guy? It was Michael. They don't say his last name.
So, I forget what his last name was.
Fire and Fury. How did they not mention the last name?
Eva. There is a lot.
There was a lot of gossip and a lot of they were best friends. Trump and Epstein were best friends, and all Epstein has to show for it are a few pictures from the 90s. I mean, for good, but then that's also where I'm gonna kill this dog.
Are those little dogs? I thought it was interesting. I mean,
here we go. Give me 1 second. 1 second.
Yeah.
Go.
So funny.
Okay. No, Shannon. We got one that's blind and one that's paralyzed, and the paralyzed one, my wife gave her a spoonful of salmon, which has caused some bowel.
Oh no! I have I have a little tripod kitty. I have a little
three-legger?
A three-legged. Yeah, he just came home.
That's cute.
My little baby buddy was mauled by a vicious dog. Yes, by a vicious dog in our neighborhood. And I mean, it was just miraculous. He had 3 surgeries and they couldn't save his leg, but he had internal. I mean, it was just awful. Our little buddy, but he survived. He's such a fighter that he survived, and he has the most beautiful spirit. And so he lost his back leg, and he's just the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life.
What kind of dog did that to your cat?
It was I'm pretty sure that it is a black lab pit mix.
Mm-hmm. That just means pitbull. They say the black lab to get around.
I know. I think so. Well,
bands, if you have it,
you're like, that thing is, and it was just the smallest world. But the surgeon, the kitty ended up going to an animal shelter, and the surgeon happened to be my neighbor. She lives right across the street, and she also fostered Buddy because he was our foster kitty, and so we got him from the shelter, and so they took extra special care of him because she loved him. But she told me, I mean, like the chomp marks were she was like, it was a miracle. Just a miracle that he survived. Massive internal, but it was all in the lower. But yeah, so he's home though. And he's the cutest thing in the world. So I love the little animals, and even the ones that have, that might not be able to move around as much as the other ones. They're special.
I won't tell you what I'll save the dirty details of what that dog did to the carpets this morning for the after show.
Oh, no.
Shannon, ordinarily I would end with you and we would say our proper goodbyes, but I want to, there's a bunch of chats and I'll read when you're not here because I hate doing that with the guest.
Sure.
We are now formally connected, and I dare say we are internet friends until we can meet in real life. Shannon, I've got nothing against you, and as much as some of the tweets look between us like fighting tweets, I don't take anything personally unless it's deliberately and overtly personal, and they want it, and even then I don't take it personally. We agree on 95% of pretty much everything, except maybe some interpretation of some acts.
I think you're great too. And same thing. I have very thick skin. And so, I mean, people can lay it on. I can take it pretty well, but I'm really glad I'm really glad to finally meet you. And this was a really fun conversation. So I hope we can collaborate again. I hope you'll come on my show sometime.
1,000% anytime.
Okay. All right. Viva Frei.
Have a great day.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, that was fantastic. I got a bunch of what I'm going to do here. What I'm going to do here. I'm going to read them just like this. Bring this up here. Stop screen. That was fantastic. Look at people like trying to sow discord. Shannon and I we don't disagree on much. And it's good to be critical for the sake of being critical, to a limit. But I like her, and she is. I'm going to go look up. I got an article here on the back of Peter. What was his name? Brescent. See how recently this man's ties to what's his face are. She looks like this picture of Shannon. She looks like the mother from one of the sitcoms back in the day. Is it was it Growing Pains? No, it wasn't Growing Pains. You know exactly who I'm talking about, guys. The mother in a sitcom with that. Oh, hold on. I need the chat to tell me who she looks like. Come on, in the chat, Full House. Thank you. Absolutely. Hold on. I'm going to get that in a second after I read all these chats and the tip questions over on Locals. Quellian says, glad to see Shannon still fighting the good fight. Shannon and I crusaded together back in the day. Shannon, this is Alan Shorer, former Henrietta GOP town leader. I'm sure Shannon is still and reading this. So Alan, good to meet you. Who would Shannon pick for Trump's administration? She gave some names, and we're gonna disagree on. We're going to disagree, not going to disagree on all of them. We're all going to disagree on some of them, but some are utterly disqualifying. And the latest one is Jeanette Nishiwat. Shannon trusts videos and hearsay from viewers on things she agrees on. Also, Shannon doesn't trust Trump's ear was shot. Ginger Ninja. I see RFK join Trump. I think Trump is capable of changing his mind on the worst decisions. Shannon sees RFK join Trump, doesn't trust RFK anymore. She's gone back to trusting him, but I gave her a bit of a hard time for that tweet. Back in the day, I got it in I had it in case I had to show receipts. But I mean, we know what we've disagreed about on Twitter. Confirmation bias is deadly and very infectious disease. I'm trying to recover from it, but it's difficult to see people with stage 4 go untreated. Ginger, nice to see you again. TZ Burton, here is to round 2 of Viva versus Shannon. I'm happy Trump won, but I'm not happy with his picks. Can we get new blood in DC instead of just insider? I think you meant retards or retreads. Was that retards or retreads? Oh, maybe that wasn't retards, and that was supposed to be retreads like on a tire. Okay. King of Biltong in the house. Add Biltong to your stocking stuffers this season. High protein gifts packed with B12, zinc, iron, creatine, and more. Grab them. BiltongUSA.com. Sticks 10. I think it means Viva 10. Use Sticks code. Go and blast Sticks code out of the ground. Sticks 10 for 10% off. We have dried fruit, and we do a 2-hour Thanksgiving stream. We will have a 2-hour Thanksgiving stream as well as a show on Friday, Sunday, 4 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Central. Shit talking whilst cooking real food with real tallow. You know, we cooked steak the other night, and I kept the pan and the fat that congealed on the bottom. I used it to fry up the eggs in the morning. Delicious. It was the Chicago steaks, actually. Trump isn't a villain. If anything, I worry he won't go far enough in pursuing accountability. Well, that would make him a villain to some. The West cannot survive these corrupt and ideological people. If he doesn't destroy them, they will come back. Yes, and that's why people say he's either wildly naive for bringing some of them onto his team, sitting down to meet with those. Mika Brzezinski and intern man Joe Scarborough are evil. Evil in the sense that maybe they're very nice and you hang around with them. They are backstabbing, conniving sons of bitches, period. And for Trump to meet with them, to think that they would do anything other than stab him in the back if it meant more ratings, contribute to impeachment 3.0. Those mother effers will turn on Trump if they ever turned around to turn around again. So him meeting with them, unless he's doing it to publicly shame them for some strategic reason, it's a big fat mistake. To try to make friends with them, you do not make friends with the scorpion. All right, now we're going to vivabarneslaw.locals.com and get the tipped questions. You know what? Okay, you know what? Let's no. Do we want? No, I'm going to read the tip questions here. We got Encryptus in the house. Let me just change this. Here we go. Okay, I'll do that. And I'm going to bring these up. No, I'm not going to bring these up. I don't know if I can bring these up. The countdown timer is under your logo. Try moving to the opposite center, says Encryptus. Yes, it's when I use StreamYard. On Studio, it doesn't cover it, but because I don't have the logo on Studio. So I'll just have to re-record. It's a real ghetto thing. What I did, I screen grabbed the song and then I ran it through Final Cut. Then I uploaded it to YouTube, and then I play the video that I've uploaded to YouTube. Except in StreamYard, I could remove my banner. It would be the easiest thing to do. Finboy Slick, don't let Shannon outshine you, Viva. Show her you have assigned Gangsta Barnes. That's the meme from before. Dread Robert in the house. He reduced regulations. Why is she putting blame or credit to Trump for things he did not have the power to do? He tried to build the wall and was prevented by Congress. She's got some legitimate criticism against Trump. He did implement the bump stock ban. He did have that sound clip about red flag laws, which people used against him as much as they, used the red flag laws against DeSantis. I mean, DeSantis also was supporting some red flag laws in Florida. He tried to build the wall, was prevented by Congress, who approved the building but refused to fund it. For SCOTUS, he nominated people to this, and the Senate approved. He had no power on Obamacare. We put him into the legislature. The assault weapons ban was under Clinton more than anything he passed in the Trump admin. He proposed cutting the CDC and was blocked. That is from Dread Robert. Lily America says, here is the way I see it. I went through a long, drawn-out divorce and custody battle. My ex lied every chance he got and used our child as a pawn in his battle to punish me. I was not perfect and made lots of mistakes, but I did the best I could with what I had available to me. I feel Trump is doing the best he can with what he's got. I don't worship him, but I did vote for him. And we got Boopsy says, Big Pharma and the huge corporations are huge powers. The enemies this next admin will be up against. Declaring an emergency gives more power and money toward their efforts. Doesn't imply lockdowns. I mean, how do you have the emergency measures to ban fruit dyes? The only argument there is whether or not the feds should have the authority to ban toxic dyes. Because you go back to the slushy or the sugar drinks. Like, I don't think the government should illegalize those either. But remember all the commercials on TV, posters in the clinics, the stimulus checks. That's power. Encryptus says Lori Loughlin is who you think she looks like from Full House. She got convicted for cheating to get her kid into school. That's right. Could be interesting to cover for a 4-minute segment. Lori Loughlin absolutely is who it is. Hold on. Lori. What date? What's the date? When does my computer get here? Oh, this mother. It's not going to do any good. You can still see me, I presume. Yeah. And it's typically with Fox News or any of these outlets that run outrageous amounts of ads. Lori Loughlin. Oh, dude, it's uncanny. Lori Loughlin's a little older. It's uncanny. Look at this. Can we? Oh, right here. Bada bing, bada boom. Bada boom. No question. She's a Lori Loughlin generation, the next generation. All right. And did I miss anything here? Are we still live on all these platforms, eh? So what would you like for McDonald's to do then? Close shop, Bosman? No, but it's like, I don't think it was an ad campaign from corporate with McDonald's. But if they don't seize on the opportunity, they're idiots. And it's a great idea from a marketing perspective. They should jump on it, going back to tallow, beef tallow, going back to something healthy. The seed oil, I still don't understand, but I know that people are freaking out about it. Patchy, disgusting beard. So yeah, there's that. And now let's go to the chat over on Locals and see. I have a Greek green card. My wife has an American one. This is Encryptus. If Trump obeys his oath to faithfully execute the duties of the office and to take care of the laws as are faithfully executed in accordance with the Constitution, he will not be a villain, but a hero. Hoping, but not holding my breath, says one of the people. Then we got here, Merchant Marine says, get the mercury out of people's dental work in their mouths. All silver fillings have mercury in them. Seriously, they constantly volatilize. Yeah, but I don't think they've used silver in a long time. And ironically enough, the people who have the silver are like my dad's generation. I don't have very many cavities because I brush my teeth, but I have a few. But it's definitely not silver or mercury for that matter. Farrell Keough says, I believe I've seen podcast videos from this woman. Great find. This should be most interesting. I look forward to listening to this at a later time. Huge thanks for the bio. She made it easy because she had her bio on a website. And then we got rolling fatties, and it's somebody rolling a fat little kitten on the side. Ho hum, I followed her a while ago. No, I'm not going to insult my guest. She was good. I like her. And first of all, I like that she came on. And we'll continue to fight on Twitter. It's fun. I'm not your buddy guy. All right, people. I gotta go because the kids are off school all week. I think I should be having Sonny Johnson on tomorrow. We'll see, but I'm not sure. And now I'm gonna go squeeze that dog out, finish cleaning the carpets, multiple carpets, because my wife stepped in it after. And now I got one carpet outside. I gotta go blast it down again. And she's got a UTI because this is what happens. It all comes together. But I'll go kiss her on the face and pat her and tell her she's a good dog. Okay, so I'm going to end the stream. Locals, let me see what's going on here. One more. Lobster rolls year-round work for me, says Einstein Universe. Mercury is far worse. Focus on fish, says C-Tune. It's an amazing thing. I got a heart doctor that says eat less red meat, eat fish. Oh, only fish and only chicken and maybe turkey. And I'm like, okay, that's good for that. What about mercury? Oh, that's not a... But I got warned not to eat the peacock bass out of the Everglades. Oh. Cavities have nothing to do with brushing your damn teeth, says RP McMurphy. That's a first I've ever heard of that. So yeah, I got my cardiologist says eat less red meat. And I'm like, no, I need to find another cardiologist. Eat less red meat, less caffeine, and don't drink alcohol. No, and no, and thank you for trying to take away the three of the the culinary pleasures of life. That is it. We shall go now. 2 hours. Locals, we'll get something going a little later. We stayed on all the platforms across for this entire show, and it was great, I think. And that is it. Cod liver oil and vitamin D will stop cavities. Bad doctor, all bad advice, says Encryptus. We'll talk later. No, Viva, it's genetics. As is most shit. I know that people brush their teeth all the time and still get cavities. I'm sure it affects some. Yeah, no, but going to bed with sugar on your teeth is not good. It does feed off the calcium. So, okay. You are 100% wrong on mercy. Viva Frei says, Merchant Marine, you are 100% wrong on mercy. I'm Merchant Marine. I'm very curious as to what you mean by that. Can you flesh that out? Unless you meant mercury and not mercy. Tell me what you meant so that I don't spend the rest of the day wondering what you meant. I'm looking for Merchant Marine to clarify. Merchant Marine. Do it. This is in locals, people. Oh, you meant mercury. Okay, fine. I was like, what did I say about mercy today? Okay, go and enjoy the day, everybody. Thank you all for being here. And thank my guest, Shannon Joy. Check her out on Twitter. I'll put the links in the bio, but Shannon Joy Radio, I think it is what it is. Shannon Joy Radio on Twitter. My face is itchy. Oh, God. Okay, so now go. Enjoy the day. I got to go do something with the kids. Fish? What should we do? Fish? Net casting? Cast netting? Catch a gator? Ride a gator? We'll see. I'll send locals the picture of what we do this afternoon. Peace out, everybody. I will see you all tomorrow. Godspeed.